An example of duty and persistent fiddling with a piece on the board. E2 E4. C7 C5. Knight G1 F3. D7 D6. D2 D4. C5 takes on D4. Knight F3 takes on D4. Knight G8 F6. Knight B1 C3. A7 A6. F2 F3. E7 E6. Bishop C1 E3. B7 B5. Queen D1 D2. Knight B8 D7. G2 G4. H7 H6. Castling queenside. B5 B4. Knight C3 E2. Queen D8 C7. H2 H4. D6 D5. Knight E2 F4. The first and apparently fatal mistake of Morozevich, leading to the loss of the figure. E6 E5. Pawn fork on two knights. Knight F4 E6. F7 takes on E6. Knight D4 captures E6. Traded a knight for a pawn. Queen C7 A5. E4 takes on D5. Queen A5 captures A2. Queen D2 D3. King E8 F7. G4 G5. Attempt to destroy the king's side. Knight F6 takes on D5. Bishop F1 H3. Knight D5 captures E3. Knight E6 D8. King F7 E7. Knight D8 C6. King E7 F7. G5 G6. King F7 G8. The black rook was locked in a cellar for a long time. Queen D3 captures E3. Bishop F8 C5. Queen E3 E4. Knight D7 F8. Rook D1 D8. Bishop C8 B7. Rook D8 takes on A8. Bishop B7 captures A8. H4 H5. Rook H8 H7. Maxime slips an idle rook. Rook H1 E1. Bishop A8 takes on C6. Queen E4 takes on C6. Bishop C5 D4. King C1 D2. Queen A2 captures B2. Queen C6 C4. King G8 H8. King D2 D3. A6 A5. Queen C4 C8. Queen B2 A3. King D3 E4. B4 B3. C2 captures B3. A5 A4. Rook E1 B1. Queen A3 B4. Queen C8 C4. Queen B4 B7. Queen C4 D5. Queen B7 B4. Queen D5 C4. Queen B4 D2. Bishop H3 G4. A4 A3. Queen C4 F7. Queen D2 C2. King E4 D5. Queen C2 C5. King D5 E4. A3 A2. Rook B1 C1. A2 A1. Rook C1 captures C5. Bishop D4 captures C5. Queen F7 D5. Queen A1 E1. King E4 D3. Queen E1 D1. King D3 C4. Queen D1 captures D5. King C4 captures D5. Bishop C5 A3. Bishop G4 F5. King H8 G8. King D5 captures E5. Rook H7 H8. King E5 D5. Knight F8 H7. G6 captures H7. King G8 F7. Bishop F5 G6. King F7 F6. F3 F4. Bishop A3 C1. F4 F5. Bishop C1 D2. King d5 d6. Bishop d2 e1. King d6 d7. Bishop e1 b4. King d7 c7. King f6 e5. King c7 d7. Bishop b4 a3. King d7 c6. King e5 d4. King c6 c7. King d4 c3. King c7 d7. King c3 b4. King d7 d6. King b4 captures b3. King d6 d5. Bishop a3 b2. King d5 d6. Bishop b2 f6. King d6 c5. King b3 c3. King c5 d6. King c3 d4. Surprisingly, Maxime seems to have forgotten about his formidable rook. King d6 c6. Rook h8 d8. Finally rook woke up. King c6 b6. King d4 d5. King b6 c7. King d5 c5. Bishop g6 f7. G7 g5. f5 captures g6. Rook d8 d6. Well, now Maxime's rook is completely free. Bishop f7 e8. Bishop f6 e5. King c7 b7. Rook d6 b6. King b7 c8. King c5 d6. The white king is cornered, the end is near. Morozevich raised his hands in the air.